Sign says showtime, so that's my cue. Welcome to the Garner Town Council regular meeting of November 3rd, 2025. And before we even jump into calling the meeting to order or calling the roll call, I just got to tell you what a beautiful day in Garner it is. The perfect autumn day. Sunday, we got an extra hour thrown in to work and get our stuff done way ahead. But even better than that, you know what today is? It's election eve. Tomorrow is the big election. Thank you for being here, taking interest in your community. You may hear more about the urge to go vote as we get our council reports. At this moment, we will call our meeting to order. If I could also call on our town clerk to call the roll.
Mayor Gupton.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Vance.
Here.
Councilmember Matthews.
Here.
Councilmember Dellinger.
Here.
Councilmember Behringer. Here. And Councilmember Singleton.
Here.
Thank you. And the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation will be provided by Council Member Damian Dellinger.
Please stand if you're able. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I had an invocation planned, and then I decided to change plans. So we had an Affordable Housing Task Force meeting this afternoon, and a wonderful thing happened in that meeting. I had one of our members and a resident say, I disagree with you, and I disagree with how you said it. And I thought, this is great that we can have this conversation in this country, that freedom of speech is still something that we respect, and that we have respect with our constituents, that they feel free, that they can engage us, and we can have those conversations. It was a fascinating opportunity, and it really made me feel good on this election eve. It also gave me an opportunity to, on the spot, sort of reflect on my perspective on service and what a tremendous opportunity and blessing it is to be able to serve the members of this community and represent them and fight for them. We have a great town, and it deserves all of our efforts to keep it strong and healthy and connected. So as we go into election night, think about those things tomorrow if you go to vote. That democracy matters, the Constitution matters, everybody matters. So that's all.
Thank you, Council Member Dellinger. Well said, and how appropriate on election eve. I hope we're all just as excited tonight as if Santa were coming tomorrow, just like Christmas Eve. So thank you for that positive note. That being said, let's move along to the petitions and comments section, and I'll ask the town clerk if anyone has signed up to speak this evening.
No, sir, we have no public
Well,
speakers.
you
for
just
this
saved me
evening.
3 minutes of laborious reading and talking here. Thank you very much. We'll move right along to adoption of the agenda. I believe all the council members have had a chance to look at the agenda. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
There's a move and a second to approve the agenda. We'll take a voice vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll move along to the next on our agenda, which is item G, presentations. And boy, this is a great one. This is a very momentous occasion here this evening. And we're going to call on Jeff Triesenberg, our planning director, to tell us about the North Carolina Great Places for Public Art Award.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. On behalf of my staff and others also here at the town, I'm honored to let you know today that back on October 15th, during our North Carolina, South Carolina Joint American Planning Association chapter conference in Charlotte, that's the professional membership across the nation to which our staff is all members of. We were there and able to accept an award on behalf of the town as a great place for public art. Every spring, they put out an announcement for nominations. The awards are lumped into two different categories. There is a statewide award package that's named after Marvin Collins, who was a notable planner here in the state of North Carolina, that honors agencies and individuals that complete outstanding plans and projects in that particular year. The second category is something that they started some years ago called the NCAPA Great Places Initiative. They consist of great places for equity, for great streets, for great transformations, for great healthy places, and for great places for public art. The APA NC Awards program was established in 2012 to highlight North Carolina's great places and those that have nurtured them. North Carolina is home to many amazing places. They are more than just geographic locations. They have taken on an identity over time that supports a high quality of life, sustains the local economy, and allows the community to thrive. Sustaining and improving these places requires collaboration among many groups within the community, such as citizens, planners, business leaders, and elected officials. And this was a chance for everyone to celebrate together, and we bring that to you tonight. As a great place for public art, the emphasis there is that it recognizes values and values a community's creative side, whether it's a mural-filled downtown, sculpture park, artistic bus stops. They always want to see your community's artistic side. So when this year's announcements came about and we were going over those criteria, I gave my staff a challenge to look at those criteria and consider a submission. So Thomas Rail and Cassidy Charles on my staff took that challenge up and worked with Matt Beard, our planner in Parks and Rec, and they put together a package that highlighted the work of our community here in Garner, particularly focused on the downtown area, but including the murals on private buildings, crosswalks, the sculpture installation, our utility box wraps, and even the Historical Society's work with private developers, such as out at Auburn Station with the artwork there on the corner of Auburn, Knightdale, and East Garner Road. So again, back on October 15th, we were happy to accept this, and this was the little video that played while we did that.
Hi, I'm Cassidy.
And I'm Thomas, and on behalf of the town of Garner, we're honored to accept the 2025 North Carolina Great Places for Public Art Award. This award recognizes the collaborative spirit and hard work of town staff, our Public Arts Committee, and the incredible artists, residents, and developers who have brought these projects to life.
We'd like to thank the North Carolina chapter of the APA for this award. We're excited for what's to come and look forward to more public art designs throughout our community.
So special thanks to our communications team for putting that together for us so that we could play that. And again, we wanted to bring this award back because it's not just an award for the planning department. This truly is an award for the town and everybody who's working on public art to make it more integrated into our community. So thank you.
Well, thank you for the presentation. Yes, indeed. And thanks to all the people who had a part in this, putting the video together, the submission, and did the work at many locations, many different forms of art through the past year. Who would have ever thought we'd be getting an award for public art? Huh? That's great. Well, thanks to everybody who helped out on that. Let's call on the other council members, starting with Mr. Vance for any other questions, comments?
I would say great job. I just remember the initiatives that were started early on in reference to public art and getting the community engaged, and then took on a life of his own with Councilman Dillinger, and also with ending up with Councilwoman Behringer, and then all the things that are happening in the various areas. I would say congratulations to all the hard work, and I would just say that we are proud of you, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Dellinger.
Yeah, I'd just say what a great job to highlight the work the town has done. It's not really a lot of times in our DNA to put ourselves out there and say, look at us. So thank you for that intentionality. I think the other thing, just art itself, half of art is about intentionality. So you're almost like reflecting that. It's like, you're intending to do this. This is something somebody put time, effort, and money into. And you're glad to be a part of it. See Ms. Joyce out there, and Kathy, who served with DGA with her, and the numerous art projects we've done over the years, and they just kind of build on one another, and funding makes those things happen. So the more we can be intentional with our funding and be intentional with our development partners and continue to be passionate about it. But thank you so much for taking the time to highlight the work that so many people have done so that we could be recognized for it. Thank you.
And may I also add, we have some great artists within the town of Garner.
Oh, that too.
Yes, we do.
Well, in fact, I'll just jump ahead here and say, I love those crosswalks. There's 4 different ones that are painted. You saw some. They were hand painted by our department heads. When I saw Forrest Jones laying down in a position painting like this, I knew he was hard at work, man. So, it was a team effort all the way. Ms. Behringer, I think you had a hand in some of this.
I'm not going to say how many years ago it was, but it was a long time that I went to a downtown North Carolina Main Street conference, and I saw public art painted on the sidewalks. And I came back and I suggested it, and the response was kind of like, that's nice. The fact that public art is a good thing to have. It makes your town look attractive, but it also makes your people smile, and that's what you want. And so now, as I look at the crosswalk art on Main Street, the first thing I saw years ago was a turtle painted on a sidewalk. This is a lot further along than a turtle, and I am so excited that we're able to do it and continue to do it because it has value. It elevates people's emotions and feelings and makes them happy, and that's what we want people to know about Garner.
Mr. Singleton, you might could shed some historical perspective on some of this, perhaps.
Well, it's Ms. Behringer's right. It did start small many years ago, and has grown to where, I appreciate Mr. Triesenberg and your staff. You challenged your staff, you said, and y'all did a really good job accepting the challenge. And the video did a really good job of showing what's been done over the years. We've had multiple different murals on different buildings downtown over the years, and what's down there now is, people love to go down there and get their picture taken, but the other art around town also. So big thumbs up. Thank you for y'all doing that work, putting forward, taking the time to do that, and congratulations on winning the award because it's well deserved.
Mr. Matthews.
Oh, yeah. Congratulations. It's interesting. Wherever you go now in Garner, you see something new. It's like going to White Deer Park and the painting on all the electrical boxes, the buildings, and the leadership building on the sidewalks down there. And I know Ms. Miller was excited about all of that and see everybody involved. And it really looks good. And congratulations again. I can't wait to see what you're going to do next year. So the gauntlet is down.
All right, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question for Mr. Treasenberg. Are we getting a certificate, a physical award?
Yes, we actually have
and-
that with us this evening.
And that's a perfect segue. I think that there could be a photo opportunity here of some type, and
Yeah.
I'm going to call on our public information officer to get us in the right positions or tell us what we should do next.
I expect a lot of us want to be in this photo, right? Maybe we have our elected officials here and everyone else.
Bring all those artistic folks over here to line up in front. There were a lot of people involved in this. If you were involved in any way, please come on up. And he wants us to stand here together.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Well,
yeah.
we're in the
Oh, boy.
background. It saves us all.
Hold that.
No, you hold it up front. And hold it out close like you hold a fish when you're taking a picture. So it looks big. Hold it out toward the camera.
And it's going to be put in a very permanent place, right?
That's right. That's right. Hey, nobody wants to stand behind Matt.
Maybe.
I'm your center.
No, you're okay, man.
Pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, and the folks on the corners
the
kind of,
chicken.
yeah, turn it, yeah. All right. All right, take one, ready?
And we expect to see this image on a mural on Town Hall
It's
wall.
going to be out there in the hallway out there, a prominent place, right?
Better yet, we can see it out on a wrap on the letterbox, man.
Yeah, make us look better. Well, thank you. Again, another big round of applause for all the people that worked hard on this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. A great day in Garner to get that kind of award. Which brings us to item H on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. There are 5 items on here that council has looked at and studied at different degrees. And if any council member wants to remove one of these items for further discussion, we can certainly entertain that. If not, we could get a motion to adopt the consent agenda as a whole.
So moved.
Second.
There's a move and a second to accept the consent agenda. Let's take a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? Hearing none, the consent agenda is adopted. And yes, you can go now, back row. Saw it done. Thank you for coming. And that brings us to a more serious matter here, a quasi judicial hearing. This is a little different from what we usually do, but it has strict rules when we get to this point here. This has to do with North Garner Middle School and a rebuilding of that school over there by Wake County Public Schools System. Special use permit application is requested by Rachel Watson with CLH Design for the approval of one school building totaling 197,730 square feet on a 17.79 acre tract located at 720 Powell Drive. And while we swear some people in who will give some testimony, you can move toward the back. Clerk, yes, town clerk. While you move to the back to get sworn in, if you're going to be testifying, go ahead and do that. And I will read the rest of the mandatory disclaimers that I have to read during the quasi-judicial hearing. So if you're going to be testifying, please go to the back and get sworn in. And I will tell you this about a public hearing. It involves an application for a special use permit, which we're going to hear a lot of information on, which requires this quasi-judicial hearing. Each council member is required to disclose whether he or she has a fixed opinion prior to the hearing that is not subject to change, had any ex parte communications, any close familial, business, or other associational relationship with an affected person, or a financial interest in the outcome of the case. This is a fact-finding hearing, and only competent, material, and substantial evidence that is not repetitive is allowed. Only expert witnesses based on training and experience may testify as to the impacts on property values, traffic safety, or noise levels. Okay, the staff report is offered as evidence in the case and will be accepted into the record unless an objection is raised by the applicant or other person withstanding. At this point, I'd like to recognize one of our folks in the planning department, Mr. Joseph Linsky. If you would, give us a summary of the report here, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, council members. So today we're here for the North Garner Middle School project, SCP SP 24020. As the mayor said, the applicant is Rachel Watson with CLH Designs. The owner is the Wake County Board of Education, and they're applying for approval of a 197,730 square foot new construction on their property with the existing school. It will be built while the existing school is remaining, so there will be a short period where both of them will remain on the property. So this is in the middle of the School Acres neighborhood, and the zoning is R4, residential 4, and the threshold for the SUP was the 100,000 square foot criteria, which did change last year and did go up to 250,000 square feet. As mentioned, the school will remain on site while the new one is constructed. And on February 25th, 2025, a variance was approved by the Board of Adjustment to permit varying methods of compliance for building height, transparency, minimums, materials, roof articulation, and facade articulation. In the comprehensive plan, this does not fall in any of our activity centers. It falls into an employment center character typology, which is pretty common for schools, and is in an area that is a level 3 area to enhance. In terms of neighborhood meetings, they hosted one last October at the school and had their second on August 7th of 2025, both with 6 people in attendance. The property does include a full track and field, and you can see the parking for the staff, which is accessed off Curtis Drive, is separate from the car drop-off zone, which is off of Powell Drive. There are no stormwater requirements for the project, as the stormwater at the conclusion will actually, or the impervious surface for the project will be less than how it started, and there are no nitrogen requirements. The project does meet the landscaping requirements, including tree canopy coverage, which will be 15.7%. They'll have street trees along the 4 frontages, that being Bryan Street, Curtis, Johnson, and Powell. And then there are a couple type A perimeter buffers, 15-foot perimeter buffers that abut some of the residential properties to the south. And they did conduct a tree survey. They are meeting their open space requirement, which is 0.89 acres, and they have 3.3 mostly through the track and field. And they do have a bit of public greenway through the property and an easement that runs along the baseball field portion to the south on the other side of Powell Drive. The lighting does meet our site requirements and the parking areas. For the building design, I'll briefly go over what they applied for in the variance that was approved. So the height did increase from 35 feet to 49 feet. The transparency varies by each floor level, but did decrease from 33% to 22%. Again, it kind of, depending on which floor you're at, does have some variance depending on what type of rooms they have. The horizontal projection and roof articulation were both increased to 123 feet for the gymnasium area, which is that, the larger space up top that you see. And then the exterior metal facade coverage does expand from 10% maximum to 20%. As mentioned, there are two separate parking areas. This is the drop-off area. And they're required by our ordinance to have 109 spaces, and they're proposing to have 169 to meet the needs for the school and their staff and students. They do meet the turn radius requirements per our fire inspections department. In terms of utilities, there are existing utilities on the site, including 6-inch water main and 8-inch sewer main. There will be access off Bryan Street. There are no road improvements required, but they will be adding 6 foot of sidewalk along the frontage of Powell Drive across from the baseball field. And in terms of environmental features, there's a blue line stream that runs parallel to Johnson Street. There are no floodplains and no other cultural resources identified. And here are our conditions of approval, fairly standard that we see in a lot of our site plan permits. And I will direct you to page 53 in your report for the motion options. I did want to note I think the image on the first sheet of the report was potentially incorrect on the version you have there, so did want to note that as well too. And that will conclude my portion, and I'll pass it back to you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Does the applicant wish to provide a presentation?
They do.
Yes, sir. Step right up. Introduce yourself, please.
It is always a thrill to be back in the town of Garner. You come here and there's so many exciting things that are going on. It's always great to hear. My name is Kenneth Haywood. I'm an attorney with the Howard Stallings Law Firm. Pleasure to be before you again. I represent the Wake County Board of Education. I have been before many of you for many, many years, and it's always a pleasure to be able to see your faces again as I come before you tonight. We're going to try to make this as short as a quasi-judicial hearing can go. We do not believe that there's any opposition, unless there's something that I'm not learning behind me, to what we have before you tonight. We do have a brief PowerPoint presentation to really show you a lot of the exciting changes that's going on. I do want to remind everybody that in the record, that's part of what I'm going to be talking about when I come back at the end to show you that we've met all the findings of fact. The PowerPoint presentation you hear tonight is already in the record. We've already submitted the answers to the findings of fact that you'll be making tonight as well. I do want to let you know that on behalf of the board, we have David Burnett, who's Assistant Superintendent with Facilities and Design, and we have Alice Reese, who's Senior Site Planner that was involved in this project. We have numerous different consultants here. Really, just in case you have any questions at all, we want to make sure that we get you the answers that we can get you. I will very briefly share with you in terms of North Garner a couple items that you'll be hearing a little bit more in detail, but I want to tease you a little bit about how exciting this project is. This is one of our older campuses. The first building was built in 1960. So we're going on to a campus that's got a little age to it and doesn't necessarily meet the current requirements that we have for our newer schools. Once renovated and completed, this will meet 2028 standards. We will be bringing to you a building in 2028 in just 3 years that will do a number of different things. One, we're going to be improving the carpool situation. We're going to be removing the modular units that are there now. We're not going to be building modular units when we open this campus. In addition to that, as you've heard, we're going to have a larger building to accommodate the such unique features as being able to now have our science labs meet the current requirements for the students. We're going to be addressing ADA requirements to making sure that we have our students. Now we have situations now where a lot of our students have to come in and out of the buildings on bad weather days. That's not going to happen in the future. In the future, they're going to be in their building. They're going to be going back and forth to their classrooms without having to worry about ADA issues or adverse weather. We also, in addition to the science, right now we currently have 11 different levels, and that proves a challenge for accessibility. That will be changing. We will also, something the school system is always concerned about, and we're going to be addressing it with this building, is security. Like I said, this is an old building. It's got a lot of different levels. It's got a lot of different entry points on campus. And so you'll be hearing some tonight, or I'll be bringing to your attention later on, that from a security standpoint, while not going into the details, we're going to be having a front door where everybody's going to be checking in to get registered. We'll actually have cameras, and we have a lot of other features to make sure that this is a safe campus for our students, our teachers, our staff, and the public. And so with that brief presentation, I'm going to ask Rachel Watson to come up, go over with you the PowerPoint presentation she has. We'll see if you have any questions, and then I'll close.
Good evening. My name is Rachel Watson with Silich Design. I'm a landscape architect and senior project manager. I think. Okay, there we go. So I'll be discussing with you this evening North Garner Middle School, the new school building, the new amenities, and how this new school building relates to the special use permit. So, per the town of Garner UDO, as mentioned previously, this project requires a special use permit. This is a tear down of an existing school, and building a new school will be constructed on the same site with new amenities. As you can see, the new school building will be over 100,000 square feet. Students and staff will remain on campus in the existing school while the new school building is constructed. And I'll discuss this further later in the presentation. And also please note, which I mentioned previously, the zoning of the site is residential and a school is permitted use within that zoning. Thus, there is no change in land use with this new school building. So looking at the existing site is predominantly a residential neighborhood with grades 6 through 8. Bus drop-off and pickup is predominantly off of Powell Drive, and then parents or carpool pickup and drop-off is off of Bryan Street. The site itself has over 60 feet of grade change or elevation change, and that could be seen in multiple steps and ramps within the existing school building and also on the school site as well. For this project, the image, as you can see, the buildings highlighted in gray will be demolished, and the slide also indicates approximately the year which each building was constructed. The new proposed site design and the new school building, as mentioned previously, complies with ADA requirements as compared to the existing school building and site. So looking at the proposed site plan, I just want to note that north is facing page left. There'll be 169 total parking spaces. There'll be separate bus and carpool drop-off and pickup. Bus drop-off and pickup has been relocated to Curtis Drive, and then carpool is off of Powell Drive. There'll be new site amenities as well, including a new track and competition field, multiple outdoor gathering spaces, and ample green space on the school site, such as the perimeter landscape buffer at adjacent residential properties, was mentioned earlier. So the dash outline indicates the existing school, which will be demolished once the new students move into the new school building. As you can see, the new building is nestled between the existing school and then the building setbacks as well. This was due to site topography and also the need to keep the existing school operation for some time during construction. So I'd like to compare the existing traffic versus the site design for the new school building. Please note that these are observations of the design team only when after school, when the school let out in the afternoon. And also want to note that north is facing towards the top of the page. For the existing conditions, we noticed that carpool drop and pickup is off of Bryan Street. Cars were backing up on Bryan Street as well as Curtis. So that is indicated in the red dashed line as well. And then buses were entering and exiting off of Powell Drive. It's also there's congestion off of Powell Drive at the intersection of Johnson Street as well. With the new site design, buses and carpool will still be separated. With our proposed site design, there will be approximately 1,400 linear feet on site for carpool queuing as compared to existing conditions. And then buses will drop off and pick up off of Curtis Drive.
Can I ask a clarification? You said on the new school was 1,400 linear feet on the carpool, correct?
Yes.
And what's in the existing?
The existing conditions for on-site is approximately 800 linear feet on-site. And then off-site, we noticed an additional 800 linear feet that backed up onto Bryan Street and Curtis. So with the new site design, we are basically providing an additional queuing on-site as compared to existing conditions.
Okay, thank you.
So I do want to take a step back in looking at the overall project schedule. The new school building will be constructed in primarily 2 main phases. Students and staff will have their first day in the new building on or around April 2028, and the remaining buildings will be demolished and construction of the new track and competition field will occur. And the project should be completed on or around April 2029. So I wanted to take a look at the high-level overview of the project phasing, looking at some diagrammatic plans. As discussed earlier, it's 2 main phases. For phase 1, students and staff will remain in the existing school, and they'll utilize their existing carpool and bus loop as well. Freestanding buildings such as the gym, mobiles, associated parking, and sidewalks will be demolished, and that's indicated on the image on the left. And then the new school building and bus loop parking and sidewalks will be constructed, and that's indicated on the image to the right. For phase 2A, students will move into a new school building, existing school building will be demolished, indicated in the diagram to the left. The diagram to the right indicates that the track competition fields will be constructed, portions of the parking will be constructed as well, and then temporary sidewalks, parking, and drives will be constructed with that particular phase. And for the final phase, the remainder of the parking will be completed, and that's indicated on the image to the right. So looking at some illustrative images of the project, as mentioned before, carpool entry and exit is off of Powell Drive, and then bus drop off and pickup will be off of Curtis Drive. And then just as a view, the same image looking from Bryan Street. This is a view of the new school building, looking towards the main entrance and also the carpool drop off and pickup area. This is the image of the new school building looking towards the building at an outdoor gathering space. And this is also a view of the new school building looking towards the school building and looking at the pedestrian pathways associated with the project. So that is it for the presentation. I want to thank you for your time. I'm here for questions as well as Wake County Public Schools and other consultants as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, members of the council, does anybody have any questions before I start wrapping things up that anyone has that we could make sure that we answer?
Very, very interesting. Let's start with Mr. Matthews down here and come down the line. Any questions, comments so far?
Great presentation. I like what I see, and looks like you put a lot of thought into this thing. And it's interesting how you can keep the existing, build a new one, then put in the amenities afterwards. That's well thought out. So.
A lot going on in 17 acres,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
Mr. Singleton.
Yes, I got lots of questions. Now, let me clarify. I used to live 703 Bryan Street for 12 years. So I know about the school a lot. And then I took kids over there for 9 years. So for the last 40 years, I've been over there, living there, playing sports there, coaching there. My kids are going to schools there. From 85 through 20, I was doing something there a lot. So I got lots of questions about some of the particulars of this, because when I first moved there, the carpool was in the front on Powell and the bus was on the back, and they flipped them because of the queue line. So I have quite a few questions, if I can just get a site plan up here and ask specific questions.
Okay. We're related to parking, related to traffic?
Pull the site plan up and I can go through them all. I need to see the site plan.
Site plan?
Yes.
Probably the better one. Just let me know if you want another image.
Okay. So we have currently, you said they have 800 on carpool, 800 square foot on site, and about 800 feet off Bryan and Curtis.
Yeah, that's
And,
enough.
and the
That's
new
enough.
one is going to be 1,400 square feet, right?
Yes.
So we will have some queuing out on Powell Drive. So we know that already.
Excuse me?
So you'll be some queuing out on Powell Drive. Yes, there will be. Yes, I've got the thumbs up from our traffic guy out there. Yes, okay, I got it. I'm good. I just want to make sure. Okay, on the back, the Curtis Drive, the new driveway, where the existing gym is, there are two driveways into that parking lot. And as you know, the crest of the hill is right there in the middle of it, which site distance issues. This driveway, is it in the crest of the hill? It looks like to me it's close to the other driveway. I don't know. I just want to find out. The reason I'm asking is you got school buses coming out there and people cut through Curtis Drive to go through Western Road to Meadowbrook to skip Garner Road traffic. And so people fly down there sometime. I just wanted to know what the sight line was, if that is going to come out on the hill or beside the hill. I'm just curious.
Might need to go to a different plan.
How about lay the old school over? You had the gym back there before. That would help. I saw that.
So that new site drive is more closer to the intersection of Curtis and Johnson Street. So on Curtis Drive, there's two existing drives. One will be demolished. And then on Bryan Street, there's an existing drive that will be demolished as well.
Right.
And then on Apollo Drive, you'll see that there's two existing drives. In the new site plan, there'll still be two existing drives, but they're a little further apart.
Okay, on Powell, okay. But again, I'm just worried about where the driveway is coming in the backside. Is it in the peak of the hill or on the crest of the hill because of a site distance issue? That's the only thing I'm bringing up is that because, there are buses pulling out instead of cars. That's just an issue to bring up, just a concern.
Rachel,
Got to
very
remember,
close to the crest of the hill.
it's close to the
A
crest.
little bit towards Johnson.
Excuse
Okay.
me. Excuse
Okay,
me.
so-
For the record, can you identify yourself?
Steve Miller with CLH Design.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure because they are now basically, that's the crest of the hill and they're both on each side. So it's going to be,
Puts the driveway much closer to the crest of the hill.
okay, very good. Thank you. A question in regards to the access to the gym. I noticed you have there's a staff parking back here with the bus loop, which is some staff parking, not all, of course. And the gym is back there in that area. So when the town of Garner leases that to run a girls volleyball program at night, people can park in the big parking lot and there'll be sidewalks to access to get back there, correct?
So that area, the northern areas for bus drop off, and there's staff parking back there as well. And then they also can park in the parking lot off of Powell Drive as well.
Okay, but there are sidewalks that will take people back there when they just want to access the gym. Because I read in the presentation, you can access the gym and the auditorium without accessing the rest of the school.
I think he's talking about if they park here, they'll be able to get back to the gym back here. We have sidewalks around both sides, from what I can tell.
Are you referring to the sidewalk on the eastern side of the plan?
I'm referring to the sidewalk from and we go from the parking lot here and access the gym pretty easily. Because if we what we used to use the gym there, there'd be 100 cars parked right there. And so obviously they're not gonna park in staff parking. I just want to know if people can access the gymnasium from being on the sidewalk.
Yes, sir. Alicia Kerwin, Skinner Farlow Kerwin Architecture. The gym is located, I'll explain the building a little, might help everyone understand. The front part of the building, the thinner part is the classroom part, and that's 3 stories at grade. And the back part of the building that you're discussing is 2 stories but the second floor of that is at the first floor of the 3-story building. So think a split-level home. The cafeteria is located on the ground floor of that back building, and the gymnasium is what I would call the main floor, the same floor that's the classrooms start on. So you can access the gym from the same level that the track is located on, and you can access the gym from this front parking lot. If someone needed to go to the gym, they could easily be in the bus parking lot, come in through that door, and then there's a kind of a larger stair that leads them upstairs to the gym. So there's access to that part of the building with sidewalks from any parking lot, and easily accessed at what I would call at grade from that front parking.
Okay, so it's easy to access both the gymnasium and the auditorium from the front parking lot on Powell Drive?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Having been there, coached kids, played sports on that gym, again, parking lot would be full. I just want to make sure it's easy accessibility there. A question along Bryan Street, and again, I lived right here on 703, right beside the parking lot for 12 years. I asked staff if there's some trees there on Bryan Street, and it's a narrow strip of land, if any of those trees would be saved or will new trees be planted. I'm assuming most of them will be taken down. I don't know. I'm just curious.
So new street trees will be provided along Bryan Street.
Okay.
They will have to be demolished due to the new grading in that area. So we provided new street trees along Curtis and Bryan and Powell Drive.
Okay. And the baseball field is going to be the construction site. And so who's going to be responsible for taking the picture before they access it, and who's going to take a picture after to make sure it looks the same, in same condition? The town responsible for that? I'm just curious. We want it to be in the same condition it is now.
So
or better.
Our Clancy and Thays is the CMR for the project. So they will take photos before and after.
Okay. All right, that's all I have for right now. I got a couple more. I'll let somebody else ask.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Behringer. Mr. Dellinger.
Yes, I have questions on two very different areas. What is the current use of the athletic field that's on site now on the eastern side of the property? There's like a soccer field that seems not used.
Are you referring to the large area kind of north, kind of on the corner of Bryan and Curtis Drive?
Yeah, the eastern side of the property. It's not used. I'm asking because I'm seeing in the new design, there's a track and competition field. And so I would imagine there's an intent for a more active use of that space. And so one of my concerns, or questions, not a concern yet, is what's the level of activity of that field? And are there going to be late night events with loudspeakers talking about this person jumped this far? And I say that because of the current nature and character of the neighborhood being relatively quiet with the lack of athletic activity. So what's sort of the thought and plan for the use of that field and loudspeakers and that sort of thing?
I'm David Burnett. I'm with Wake County Public Schools. It's my understanding that they don't play at night. Hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, so would there be like just some kind of reassurance that there won't be late night tournaments and announcers? Is there something to condition or something? Because that would change the character of the neighborhood as far as I understand it.
And it's our standard, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's our standard not to light our ball fields. I'm not aware that we're lighting any of these ball fields. So
Okay,
when it gets dark, it'll be dark.
Okay. My other question is on stormwater, and there was a mention in the August 7th neighborhood meeting. Someone had concerns of flooding adjacent streets, and questions related to stormwater retention. And I noticed you're really reconfiguring the property in a very significant way to bring this kind of open space field to closer to that Neuse River buffer area. And I see a level spreader on the northwest side of the property. So can you kind of speak to the storm water changes and controls versus what's there and been there since 1960 versus what's going into the new construction to mitigate any sort of runoff with this new configuration?
Yeah, the proposed project will reduce the amount of impervious area on the site, so it'll generally reduce the amount of runoff from the site. Rate of runoff from a site is directly proportional to the amount of impervious surface. So we've got more green space that'll absorb stormwater into the ground as opposed to pavement. So in general, we're reducing the runoff from the site. The level spreader that you mentioned in the upper northwest corner of the site, that's where we are discharging stormwater to the stream feature that runs along the western side of the site. That stream feature has a riparian buffer, so we want to maintain that. And the level spreader is designed to take concentrated stormwater and spread it out so it runs through that buffer. The buffer is allowed to slow that water down, remove nutrients from it before it reaches the stream.
So, you know, as I mentioned, sort of really reconfiguring the stormwater runoff of the property from a lot of your permeable surface has gone from the eastern side of the property to the western side, which is actually closer to the creek, which I think would, and so it seems like it would increase the likelihood of adverse flood impacts. And that's why kind of my question is the level spreader the only stormwater control being incorporated into this design?
It is, yes, yeah. Most of the stormwater for the site does lead to the north. On the northwest side, you talked about the crest in the road. That's pretty much the divide. So water leaves the northwest side, and the rest leaves sort of the north towards the east.
So, yeah. 1 second, I need to just find
Keep
my
evaluating
spot.
and make sure we're not increasing stormwater runoff.
And that's what one of my concerns is. One of the community members had concerns about flooding on adjacent roads, and then
It
his
wasn't clear
response
where,
is
I don't think
this-
they had articulated where that drainage situation.
I'm reading from the neighborhood meeting report. It says community member discussed concerns about flooding on adjacent roads. Response: the site is graded, so stormwater runoff will be captured in the storm system through catch basins, inlets, and piping. Discussed how low spots the side of the north end of the property. And I guess I'm a little concerned that there's not really any sort of improved mitigation with regards to stormwater that seem substantive.
Well, I think just the best thing you can do for reducing stormwater is to reduce the amount of impervious area on the site. That's the most nature-based method of that. So that's what we're doing on this site.
But even a reduction doesn't necessarily change the direction, and a reduction also doesn't mean that it's still not too much. So I've got some concerns in a lot of our new construction projects and commercial projects. Stormwater retention and runoff and flow control is really, really important. And you're right next to this stream, and I'm about to pull up flood maps because I'm want to see where that flood zone is, because there could be potential adverse impacts to homeowners downstream. And if there's been an analysis of it, it'd be nice to see that. But there's not really a quantitative, I'm not seeing a quantitative representation of this, the storm flow and impacts on that stream relative to this reconfiguration of the property.
I don't think I'm prepared to address that right now. My understanding was that the design was reviewed and approved by staff and met the requirements of the town.
I'll let somebody else go.
Okay, Mr. Vance.
Okay, just several questions. In reference to the questions that have been raised in reference to stormwater, can I direct the question to the staff if they have any input on that based upon review? Is that appropriate at this time to do that? Can the staff address any of those?
Yeah, we don't have any specific, guidance outside that. Our engineering department has looked at it, and they, kind of use the impervious surface calculations, and they did deem it that it was approvable in this state.
Okay. No further questions.
Okay, let's start back over with Mr. Matthews. Any further questions?
No, sir.
Observations? Mr. Singleton.
Okay, back on Bryan Street, we talked about we're gonna cut most of the trees down and replace them with street trees. Currently, there's been a fence there forever because of access to the field. You know, I mean, I played high school football there. The mayor may played high school football there too on the field. So the fence has been there forever, so people just couldn't walk into the game. So will there be a fence along Bryan Street, or is all that fence gonna be gone? And the reason I ask you is you got a sidewalk here going from the parking lot to one of the buildings. And when you take those trees down and the fence down, those people's houses are right there. And so is there gonna be any fence there, or is the access is they can just walk across the street? That's simple. I'm just curious. Because I mean, they can do that in the front now, but I mean, I'm compared to what has been there for all these years.
So currently that fence, there's not going to be a fence
Not gonna be a
along
fence,
Bryan
okay.
Street. There is a fence around the track and competition field, and also a fence along kind of south of that track and competition field as well. So that's where the primary fencing will be.
Okay. So in looking, I'm just looking at this plan. This sidewalk is really close to Bryan Street. I'm assuming there is some grass in there between. I'm just curious, there's no sidewalk on Bryan Street, correct? There's no sidewalk being added on Bryan Street?
No, there's not.
No.
There's
Okay.
currently is not.
I'm just curious again, because you're taking down all the trees and putting that big building there right to their front yards. And some of the houses there are right there on top of it. That's just, I know the schools can get built. I know that it's allowed there. I'm just saying that's a dramatic change. Just like Mr. Dellinger was asking about lighted field, well, you answered that question, no more lights. The lights were there because that's where all of us played ball before the other high school field was built. So that's why lights have been there for all these years. So I understand that. I'm just curious, you're really opening that up to that, to Bryan Street. So you answered my questions. Thank you.
Can I just go back to that? So, per the UDO, we're required to put street trees and perimeter buffer landscaping for your very concern. So that's being met with proposed site plan on all sides. In some areas, we are keeping existing vegetation to meet that requirement. That's primarily along the existing residential properties, kind of facing Powell, and also along Johnson Street as well. Everywhere else, we're providing supplemental planting to increase that buffer width or the density of planting within that buffer, and then provide the appropriate street trees as well if we remove them during construction.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Behringer? Further, Mr. Dellinger?
No other questions.
Mr. Vance?
No further questions.
Okay. Any further now, we will be having another discussion later on. This is part of the public hearing. Any other questions we want to talk about at the public hearing portion of this? Okay. Hearing none, any further comments that the development team would like to make here?
I do, Mr. Mayor, and thank you. And I appreciate all the questions. I want to make sure that everybody is comfortable in terms of what we've been talking about tonight. And that's why I brought so many friends with me tonight, to be able to make sure we had the right people here to answer your question. But now is the time in the hearing where we have to be able to go through the various findings of fact that are required under your UDO, since this is a special use permit. And we need to remember that the reason it's a special use permit is simply because we're increasing the size of the building. We're going from multiple different buildings to one building. And because we're greater than 100,000 square feet, it requires a special use permit. And that's the only reason under the code that we're there. But we need to, because that is a requirement, to be able to go through these findings of fact. So number one, the proposed use will not endanger the public health or safety. It's been a school there since the 1960s. It's going to continue to be a school. We don't believe the school is going to endanger the health or safety to the community. It will remain to be a public school. It obviously will include new amenities, as we've discussed, in terms of the track and field, outdoor gathering spaces, and new landscaping for the public. B, the proposed use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property owners. We are complying in full with the town of Garner, your UDO, in terms of perimeter landscaping buffers, as you've heard, and streets, trees. And we are, as you've heard, in terms of the level spreader, protecting to the extent of the speed of runoff into any streams and into the stream buffers. We are, of course, reducing the traffic congestion among the adjacent roadways, as you've heard, by additional queuing for carpool on site. As you've heard, I think I've heard that we went from 800 on site to 1,400. If completed as next question, if completed as proposed, the development will comply with all requirements of the ordinance. I believe that your staff did an excellent job in explaining that we are meeting the different requirements of the ordinance as outlined by staff. D, the proposed use is consistent with the town's adopted transportation plan, other adopted plans and policies, and the stated purpose and intent of the UDO. And as you heard, the site is R4, it's permitted use. It's going to remain that in that place. We are bringing a plan to you that is consistent with the town's adopted transportation plan, as well as other plans and policies. A traffic analysis memo was provided to town and reviewed and approved by the town of Garner staff. The project, the adjacent streets will remain residential. We will not include any new roadway improvements that would harm in terms of any of the residences. We will provide new sidewalks for connectivity along the northern side of Power Drive, and they will connect to the existing sidewalks in Powell. It is also consistent with the town of Garner Greenway Master Plan by indicating a future greenway and associated future greenway easements on the 719 Powell Drive site. E, the proposed use is compatible with adjacent uses in proximate neighborhood in terms of building scale, height, buffering, screening, and characteristics. And our response to that is we are compatible with adjacent uses in proximate neighborhood. Again, we've been there for over 60 years operating at school, and that will continue unchanged. The site has before, or currently now is a middle school, and will continue to be a middle school as a permitted use under your UDA Article 6. It will now have a track and field competition. As I've said, parking, additional queuing for the carpool and bus lanes, which will reduce traffic congestion on the adjacent residential streets and in complying with traffic impact analysis. The separation of carpool and bus entry exit will reduce traffic congestion by having those into different drives. Addition, in terms of this particular requirement, we are providing landscaping buffers that I've already mentioned, and the building scale, aesthetics, architectural variances were reviewed, as you heard, by your Board of Adjustment, and after a comprehensive review with them, were approved unanimously, I believe, if I remember correctly. So F, any significant adverse impacts from the use will be mitigated or offset, including impacts on the natural environment. As we've said, North Garner Middle School will not significantly impact the natural environment. Per the town's UDO, perimeter landscape buffers, streetscape buffers, and associated site interior landscaping will be provided. These will enhance the natural environment in the neighborhood while also providing screening to adjacent properties as needed. Stormwater control measures that we've discussed will be in place. There is an existing stream with buffers that's regulated by the state of North Carolina. And as you've heard, these impacts on the stream buffers have been reviewed and approved by the state in August 13th of this year. G, public safety, transportation, utility services will be available to serve the public while maintaining sufficient levels of service. They have been and will continue to serve the school. Emergency services and utility services have access to the site to serve the school. Finally, adequate assurances of continuing maintenance have been provided, and Wake County here is, of course, responsible for the maintenance of our school campus. So we have gone through the various findings of fact. We are obviously, if there are any questions during the discussion phase, I'm still here to be able to answer those. My simple request of this board, of this town council, is to approve our request for a special use permit for North Garner Middle School. It's a site that has been dear to the hearts of the town and to the Board of Education. We look to now bring to you a new campus with new amenities and new improvements in 2028 to serve the citizens of Garner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haywood. While we're in the public hearings portion of this item, let's also make sure that we're recognizing any individuals who have signed up to speak. I'll ask our town clerk, town attorney, have any individuals signed up to speak during the public hearing?
No, sir, it looks like the individuals who signed up are with the group, with the development group.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, that being said then, I think we will close the public hearing. We'll move to a further discussion as we move toward making a decision. So that closes the public hearing. We'll now be asking the council members for motions in a second, and then we can have some other discussion. I just want to say, as has been said several times in different ways, change is difficult. Talk about the good old days. I was in the last graduating class that graduated from high school from that facility. It became a middle school after that. So it's going to be particularly trying to the neighbors, I know, as this construction goes on. As we do without a baseball field for a couple of years, transition is always difficult, and it won't look great during that time. It will look like mud. It will look like a treeless mud hole. That's what it looks like when these go on. There will be noise and disruption to traffic. And even the day that it's complete, it won't look like the good old days. The trees will be small, the grass will be brown. It will eventually come around, and I just feel comfortable that in years to come, we can look back and be proud of what we've done. The old school served its purpose, but if you were in a wheelchair or on crutches, it was extremely difficult to get from one end to the other. Extremely difficult and hazardous going back outside. It's time for a change. I love the old school. The new school is going to be so much better in so many ways. My rough opinion is all the time and energy will be well spent, and we'll look back 10 years from now and say, wasn't that the smart thing to do? But it is difficult indeed. So the public hearing is closed. That being said, we should ask the council members for a motion in a second, and then we can have some more discussion. Is there a motion related to this SUP?
Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
I find the application of SUP-SP-24-020 meets the town's 8 criteria for special use permits as identified in Article 4.7.4D. Therefore, I move the town council approve SUP SP-24-020 North Garner Middle School with the 4 site-specific conditions recommended by the TRC to be listed on a permit that will be prepared by staff.
Okay, there's a motion. There's a second by Mr. Matthews. Okay, and before we move any further, it is time for discussion now. We can have more discussion as to the approval of this SUP that's been required. See, Mr. Vance made the motion. Would you like to start the discussion? Anything further you'd like to add, Mr. Vance?
Nothing further. Nothing further.
Mr. Dellinger, questions, comments on the motion?
No, just have concerns and want them to be on the record with regards to the stormwater. I think, hazard mitigation and resiliency is really important for the future of the town. And you always want to build, if you're going to rebuild, you want to rebuild better than what's there. We're entering an era where we're going to have increased rainfall. We are in periods where we have drought and hyper rainfall on top of other rainfall, which increases these 100-year flood events. They occur more than every 100 years. I do this work, I know. And so I'm a little disturbed that the stormwater management on this property is not more sufficient, especially considering its direct location next to a creek and expressed concerns by the residents. So I just think that if you're going to rebuild a whole site, you need to build it for the next 100 years and not just trying to do the bare minimum. The mere presence of the level spreader is an indication that there's some stormwater challenges or on the property. Question is, are they going to be sufficient for the types of rain events that we have? Now, they're not going to affect this property. They're going to affect property owners downstream. That's my concern. So I will vote as the motion is now, no, it does not meet condition F of mitigating adverse impacts. I don't see sufficient evidence presented tonight that it would do so.
Thank you. Ms. Behringer?
No questions.
Mr. Singleton?
Yes, I need clarification from staff on the issue, and this project, I don't think is going to change that. There's currently on Powell Drive where the sidewalk ends, it's a crosswalk that crosses over from Powell to intersection with Broughton Street, then there's one from Broughton over to the sidewalk. That'll stay in place, correct? That crosswalk will stay, it shouldn't have anything to do with that construction because it's in front of the sidewalk ends in front of one of the residential properties there, and the crosswalk is to take them over.
Clarify, you were saying at Broughton and Powell? Like over, I apologize,
House is here.
Yep.
Okay, the sidewalk doesn't go all the way, the sidewalk ends, and then about right here, and then there's a crosswalk that takes over, because the sidewalk on Broughton's on this side, on the west side. I just want to make sure the crosswalk can stay in place. It shouldn't have anything to do with that construction. I just want to make sure the crosswalk, there will be a crosswalk remaining there.
Correct, I believe, and I think Rachel, that's correct, right? I don't believe that's out. I believe that's outside of our limits of disturbance. Yeah, there is a crosswalk that'll go over to the ball field there, but no, it doesn't quite go down that far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the sidewalk that's been proposed on Powell Drive now, it's going to be right in front of the school. There's going to be one on the other side of the ball field. It's just on the school side, correct?
It'll be on.
I mean, there's an existing one on the school side.
Right. Yeah, it'll be on, I believe, just on the school side.
Okay. All right. Yeah. There's not one coming on the other side. That's why I just want, okay. I just want to make sure the crosswalk will be there when all this is done, because kids do need to get to Broughton Street, and that's the way it was devised, because the sidewalk ended in front of one of the houses. It didn't run all the way down, because once you got near where the stream is, it was a real hard issue to put a sidewalk there. Because the grade dropped so significantly. That's why I didn't go any further. Okay, just confirm this. There'll be a crosswalk there when this is all done in 2028.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, the limits of disturbance don't go quite that far.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good. And while you're up, Mr. Joe, can you address the stormwater control issues too? These are very thoughtful questions, and we've learned infrastructure. We used to think of water, sewer, and roads. Now it's water, sewer, roads, but number one is stormwater control. We're increasingly sensitive to that. Could you elaborate a little bit on what other rules or regulations might be in place? What other checks and balances does Wake County have stormwater control measures that are mandated? How can we address the very serious nature of adequate stormwater control?
Yeah, so from my understanding, I guess in addition to the level spreader, there's also a filter strip like in the area before you get to the stream there above that's supposed to, I guess, like increase the intake and, the impervious surface in that particular area. And there is, I don't think this was stated earlier, or I maybe overlooked it a little bit in my presentation, but the area with the 50-foot buffer off the stream will be retained. There are a few trees that are coming down there, but a lot of them will be protected with tree protection fencing that kind of, are off of the stream there. So that whole area will be, primarily untouched. So I guess to that point, there is not an SCM, required per our, our engineering specs and what they require our, staff or stormwater staff reviews it, and that was not a requirement because they were reducing the impervious. But I couldn't speak to any county requirements per se, but I know for our side, because there was a decrease, that was a primary purpose, or why they were able to do it without a stormwater device.
That speaks to my other question. So it's, if this site were being built new, wouldn't there be a requirement for stormwater a more stringent stormwater control? But there seems to be an exception.
If it was like a vacant lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if they were building this project new, they would be required to do a more comprehensive stormwater control system for a 100,000 square foot building on a 17-acre site?
I couldn't say what they would be required, but I imagine, yeah, there would be, yeah, more requirements because there's no existing. Yeah.
So-
But as to what that would be, I couldn't tell you.
So the only reason they're not forced to do it is because they're actually doing, I'm reading a 15% reduction is what they're sort of doing in the reconfigured site. Okay, and that's good to know. Yeah, I would think Wake County would be a little more sensitive to stormwater runoff in the future of, you know, their construction, and want to meet standards that are actually going to, if it were new build, would be built to a standard that is designed per our UDO to protect our stormwater infrastructure and protect real property. So, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that a very important topic. I see some chatter going on. Would you like to address this in more detail?
I certainly take very seriously what you said, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that, from my understanding from our landscape architect, if this was a completely wooded site today, and we were going in and clearing the entire site, then there would be storm measures that would be required. They're not being required because it has already been cleared. And so I just want to make sure that we're all clear that it's not that we're getting some type of preferential treatment. We're following the code as a site that has already been improved, and we're changing what the improvements are, if that helps clarify this at all.
Yeah, but the standards it was built on are 1960s standards. So there's a little bit of an exception in that if this were just a piece of 17 acres of property and you came in to build this school new, you'd be required to come to 2025 storm control standards. And which to me illustrates that the stormwater measures are not sufficient because they don't meet they meet the rule, but they don't meet the current standard that we expect of new construction. And so that's where I'm finding it's not meeting number F, the mitigation of adverse impacts, because if it were new construction, it'd be meeting a higher standard that would protect real property of our residents.
Well, as we've discussed, from where the water enters, where the level spreader is, you then have a 50-foot riparian buffer before you get to the stream. So the water is then going to be spread over 50 feet in width, the riparian buffer to get to the stream. And because of the fact that that's what's been occurring for over 60 years, we're now reducing the amount of water that's going to be spreading out. You know, our analysis and working with your staff and your code requirements is that that's going to be sufficient. That's all I can say.
I think you have another team member willing to testify as well.
I guess my question
Would you
too
like to add to it? This is a technical question.
Level spreaders reduce velocity, not volume, right?
Right.
So you're not actually reducing or stopping the amount of water that is going into the stream.
We are reducing the volume of runoff from our site.
By reducing impervious surface, but it's still not meeting the standard of a new construction, correct?
Well, new construction, I believe the standard would be you do not increase the runoff. We are decreasing the runoff. So in actuality, the school can come back and actually pave more of the site and still meet the current rules. So I think, you know, everybody could always do more. If these neighborhoods were built today, they would have different stormwater standards as well. I think when somebody renovates their house, you don't come in there and tell them they've got to now put stormwater detention on their property. The rules are that things that were built back in 1960 are essentially grandfathered in. And
I think we're talking about the same thing here, just in a common sense point of view. I guess the question we would be asking, are the people downstream better off or worse off or about the same?
They are better off after this project is complete.
Okay, has there historically
Are they
been
better off as if this was a completely wooded site, it was never developed? Of course not.
But better off than they
Better
are
off
now?
than it is today.
That's one of the key issues. Can anybody on the town planning staff, do you know, have there been issues downstream of here under the current structure? Is this a known flood area that will only be a little bit less flooded coming forward? Or I'm just curious, just a common sense approach.
We're not aware of any issues that have been raised, at least with planning. Engineering potentially might, but we're not aware of any.
You're not aware of downstream issues today with too much water going that way?
Not
And
that's
there, and there should be less water going that way at lower volumes.
All things being the same, but Mr. Dellinger makes a good point. The environment is changing at all times. And we all know that storms are getting more intense now than they were. So what I can say is when this project's complete, the hydraulic situation will be better than it is right now.
Okay, I guess that's part of the comment. Yes, sir.
Just one question. If it were built new, they'd be required to capture all the runoff from their property. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yeah.
So the newer standard would actually be even better than slightly better.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay.
I guess it would depend on what they're proposing.
Okay.
I mean, if they were, maxing out the impervious there on a whole new lot, yes. But, if they were, proposing something smaller on a larger tract like that, it would depend on what they're proposing. But they are, as you stated, they are grandfathered in. I think that's really, for what we can, approve, allow and permit, that grandfathering status is really what our mechanism for what we can go off of.
I have a question for the town attorney. They're grandfathered in with regards to the UDO. However, we have the authority to enhance and mitigate some of these adverse impacts. Is that correct?
As long as they apply to those 8 findings of fact that you need to make.
Thank you.
Would you repeat that again, please?
Sorry about that. So with respect to the findings of fact that are required under the UDO, the 8 factors that the attorney addressed, you could deny the special use permit based on finding that one of those didn't apply, or you could apply conditions to ensure that those conditions are met.
Okay, does that address your concern? I mean, she answered the question.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to the project. I think that there's a little work that could be done to enhance the stormwater, to future-proof the town, this part of the town, by enhancing the stormwater devices on the property, and would, really appreciate the cooperation of the school system to do that, and would entertain a condition be added to the motion to work with staff to create some type of stormwater, maybe something that would enhance stormwater beyond, but maybe not up to the full current standard, but do some more research to help, do some more mitigation on stormwater retention on site.
Yeah, always a technical question. How much better can we expect any one project to be versus the rules versus the grandfather? Always interesting, always. But this is the time to talk about these things. This is indeed the time. Yes, sir, Mr. Haywood.
No, I was just going to say, my understanding is, if I remember I'm wrong, especially since you've lived out there for all these years, the stream is to the west of the new track and field, I believe, that we're talking about. And so while we certainly always want to work with staff in terms of a site plan, the school has needed a track and field competitive space for many years. We are now able to bring that. But the more that we were to do in that area to address stormwater beyond what we're required to do, I cannot advocate that we would then lose the track and field that is the largest amenity we're bringing now with the new school site in terms of all the other things. We can't sacrifice that for the students of the middle school.
I have a quick question. So from what you just said, can I discern that you did evaluate doing increased stormwater retention on the property?
No, I'm not saying that we did. I'm saying that the team here, in connection with the staff, in connection with the code requirements, when they were developing the site plan, worked together. I'm not saying that anything was eliminated. I'm just saying that if we now, as a condition to the special use permit, put in conditions, realize that if you put certain conditions in this, it is in this area where the track and field is, and all I'm saying is be aware that if there are conditions, that's the area of the site that we're talking about. That's all I'm trying to.
And I think that, to my point, is there could be some more evaluation of the impacts of adding some storm control measures. If it came to the point that the storm control measures eliminated one of these amenities that is essential for the school, that's one conversation. However, if it can be done and not, then that would be a win-win for everyone. So I guess I just think there's a little bit of conversation on site plan and with staff to see if it's possible to enhance the stormwater retention properties of the property without necessarily disturbing the amenities and functionality of the current site plan.
Okay. Yeah, very, very important points. I'm going to ask our town attorney, town manager, from a practical point of view, before we start making amendments or suggesting amendments to the motion that's on the floor, is there any other way to address these kind of concerns to actually produce slightly better results than meet the basic rule? I'm asking kind of a practical question. We don't want to hold up the project. This is something we've needed for a long time. We wanted to move ahead, but we want to get the best possible result without arbitrarily expanding the time frame, without dragging your feet around. So I guess what I'm looking for is other suggestions from our attorney or our planning staff. What could we do? While they're thinking, Mr. Matthews, you might have a question or observation.
Mr. Mayor, this is interesting discussion, and we could debate it all night. And but this has been presented, and we've got the expert has stated 2 or 3 times that with this new proposal, we're going to see less stormwater as presented, and I see no reason not to take him at his word. He knows what he's talking about, and move on forward. Like I said, we can beat this thing to death and add on to it and take away from, but I think it's a great project, and over this one condition, and I heard what he had to say, and I believe him, and I think if it's an issue, we'll deal with it, but nobody knows what's going to happen 10 years from now, 5 years from now. We can all sit here and speculate all night, with all due respect to everybody, but I'd like to go ahead and move forward with this thing.
Okay. Ms. Jones?
So I would like to clarify, so if any of the 8 findings are not met, then the special use permit can be denied. The council may attach conditions to address impacts of the proposed development on adjoining property, the existing natural and man-made features of the site, off-site and on-site traffic flow, public utilities, infrastructure and services, and any other public services or goals of the comprehensive growth plan, adopted plans for the transportation plan that may be negatively impacted by the proposed development. So provided a condition could be crafted that would address one of those 5 criteria, then that could be imposed by council. At that time, the applicant, the Board of Education, could appeal that condition if they chose to. But I think it's very difficult in this kind of setting to craft the appropriate type of condition unless you want to delegate to our engineering department to relook at the stormwater, what's been proposed to address any changes in the impervious surface and the runoff off the site.
Yeah, I think I'm interpreting what you're saying kind of in line with what Mr. Matthews said. We can keep trying to whittle at this and put additions and conditions. Everyone takes time and money. I'd like one more input from our planning staff, Mr. Triesenberg, Mr. Lidsky. Is there a way that this could be approved without detailed additions, detailed additional conditions, and still keep in mind from both parties here that we're hoping to gain a little bit more than the bare minimum perhaps, but before we start getting into splitting hairs?
I want to clarify that this project does not meet the bare minimum. This exceeds the minimum.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, expand on that a little bit.
This site reduces the stormwater runoff from the site, or this project does. It doesn't have to reduce it, it just can't increase it. So we are reducing.
Right.
And the best way to reduce runoff is to reduce your impervious surface on your site.
Right.
Anything else is now a structural thing that's going to require maintenance. It's going to be potentially a hazard, open water on a site. So the most natural way, and you look at any kind of stormwater regulations, number one objective is to reduce impervious surface. That's what this project is doing by making a more vertical building. So, it's being kind of colored like we are doing the bare minimum. I think
Let
this
me
project is
withdraw
a
the bare
model for
minimum
what you're going to
comment.
do.
Thank you for explaining that. I understand what you're saying. It is an improvement. Mr.
I just
Haywood?
want to make sure that council is aware, I'm sure you are, to Mr. Matthews' point, is that if we start to mess around with any of the site, you're the last stop. We've gone through plan staff, the site plan has been approved, and we've gone through, obviously, Board of Adjustment with their approval. If we have to submit a new site plan, then this process starts over. We would have to go back through the planning department, they would have to review it, they would have to approve it. Our schedule is no longer 2028. I'm not dismissing any of the concerns, I'm just reality letting you know that after you tonight, if you find the 8 findings of fact have been met and we move forward, wonderful. If for some reason we have to redo a site plan, then everything stops and then the timeline completely changes. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that.
Thank you. Very good input. That being said, Mr. Vance made the motion, which has been seconded. Back to Mr. Vance.
So yes, I just wanted to ask the staff, are you able at this time to provide the statement that's inside of our agenda relative to the TRC findings on stormwater? Are you able to?
While they're conferring, would you repeat that question, Mr.
Well,
Vance?
what I was asking is the staff to provide what was after they went through a review of the various plans, what was the overall finding from whoever reviewed it, whether it was engineering, and they have it within their agenda as to what those findings were, which will specifically state what is being recommended based upon their study and review with their experts on stormwater.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Triesenberg.
Yes, Jeff Triesenberg, Planning Director for the town. Yes, the TRC did unanimously state that the plans as presented do meet the requirements of our Unified Development Ordinance. Engineering is not here tonight, so I can't speak to engineering standards. That's beyond our professional capabilities. But again, I think it's been pointed out that they are reducing the impervious. If it was a new site, any site is not allowed, whether it's new or redeveloping, to increase flow off the site. It has to be detained for that 1, 10, and 25-year storm. So just wanted to clarify that it is regardless of what's happening, you cannot increase the flow for those type of events. So that's how that standard is set up.
Okay, and may I also state from the agenda that we have here, the TRC finding the proposed site does not require stormwater retention.
That is correct, because they are actually reducing. So the volumes, there's no additional volumes that required a primary SCM. So it is just the level spreader and that strip that allows for more infiltration for what is coming off the site. But what is coming off the site is less than it was before.
Okay, does that address your question?
It does.
Okay, so just to restate where we are, we've had the public hearing, we've closed that. We got a motion and a second to approve the special use permit. We've had some discussion. We had a suggestion. Let's go ahead and vote on this. Is there more discussion needed? Okay, with that being said.
Can I just ask one clarifying question? Because of the slope, we talked about the ridge and everything, where the field is and everything west there, it all slopes to the stream. I mean, that's where all that water goes, by the natural lay of the land, because in the upper right-hand corner, in the northeast corner, that slopes the other way. That's why there's been nothing there but trees, because that's the both slope. That's where the water goes to the ditches. on both sides. It both runs off that ridge that we talked about from the back. Right, okay. And the one on, along Johnson Street is y'all call it a stream, I call it a ditch, a deep ditch. But anyway, it's been there as long as I can remember. And that's where the water flows there naturally. Stormwater flows naturally. Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good conversation. There's a motion and a second. Let's have a roll call vote. Aye in favor of approving the special use permit, nay if opposed. Let's start with Mr. Vance, who made the motion. Aye or nay?
Aye.
Mr. Dellinger?
No.
Mr. Behringer?
Aye.
Mr. Singleton?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Okay, that's 4-1 in favor of. The motion passes. We look forward to you working with us on this, and I'm sure you'll find every possible way to do the best possible job all the way through. Wake County Public Schools has always been a great partner to the town of Garner. We want to support you and get you through this trying time. It always has challenges. Nothing is perfect. Do the best you can. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Moving right along, that brings us to item J on the agenda, new old business. And this has to do with Board of Adjustment appointments. And Mr. Vance is the chair of our Human Resources Committee that staffs these boards and commissions. And I'm going to turn this over to you, Mr. Vance.
Well, thank you, Mayor Gupton. Tonight, Mayor Gupton, I would like to move that Mr. Joe Gupton from Board Adjustments, alternate to a full member of the Board of Adjustment, and appoint Ms. Brendy Vega to the town alternate position. I'd like to make that motion.
No, I'll second that motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Let's have some discussion here. Anybody want to make a comment about these two appointments? Hearing none?
I would just say that we are getting some strong applicants in. And I would just say that these individuals, we believe, based upon one, their current participation on the Board of Adjustment, along with the recent interview of the other applicant, that they will be very good individuals in the positions they are being recommended for.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vance, as the chair of the Human Resources Committee, and Mr. Dellinger as our other council member of that committee. I'm sure you have put a lot of thought and process into this. Thank you for the job you're doing to keep us moving ahead on that. That being said, let's go for a voice vote on this. We did have the motion and the second. Okay, all in favor of approving these two appointments, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much for that. We move to item K on our agenda, which is updates to council, and I believe that would be coming from our town manager and possibly assistant town managers.
Committee reports would be the next item. These all fall under updates to council.
The updates to council, you want us to move to committee reports before, okay.
Right,
No,
that's the catch-all category for all of these reports.
and we just caught enough, all things, okay. We'll move right along to committee reports from council members. Now let's start with Mr. Matthews down here, committees that you are part of in your reports.
Just, we got the 11th coming up for the Veterans Day. It's going to be a big event, and that afternoon, right after lunch, we'll be moving out where we're going to be cutting the ribbon for the Tunnels to Towers, or that group for Home for a Veteran out there. It's near off White Oak Road near Mount Hermon Church. So we'll be talking more about that. So it's going to be a big day.
Excellent, excellent. Mr. Singleton, committee reports?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Behringer?
Yes, the Public Art Committee will meet, November meeting will be on the 20th here at Town Hall.
Excellent. Committee reports?
No report.
Mr. Vance, committee reports?
Just one, the Affordable Housing Task Force met this afternoon for a very, I would say, very good meeting this afternoon. Covered a lot of ground. Things are moving forward. And the next meeting is going to be in December. But the subcommittees are working hard, diligently on the task that's been presented. And just want to let the council know that hopefully we'll be able to provide you with information coming in the very near future.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much. And now we get to manager reports. Ms. Miller.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of council. Just a reminder that our rescheduled Garner Night Out and Food Truck Rodeo is scheduled for Friday, November 7th from 6 to 9, located in downtown Garner on Main Street. This year, we are also going to be collecting food. The town's going to be hosting a food drive to collect food for our local food pantries. We'll be collecting at the event on Friday downtown, as well as we'll be collecting at town buildings and facilities as well. So there'll be more information coming out regarding that event. I also wanted to make council aware that in honor of Veterans Day and the service of veterans and their families, the town will be participating in Wake County's Operation Greenlight. We will be lighting up Town Hall, the outside of Town Hall in green, starting tomorrow, November 4th through November 11th. And it's always great to be able to drive by the building at night and seeing it lit up for specific occasions. So look forward to the green lights November 4th through 11th. Those are all the updates for this evening. Happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Questions? Hearing none, we'll move right to attorney reports.
No report this evening. I just appreciate the action you took on the consent agenda to expand our legal services department.
All right, good. Well, let's run back through council reports other than committee reports. Let's start with Mr. Vance this time. Any other comments, reports?
No comments, no reports.
Okay, Mr. Dellinger.
Steal the mayor's vote, vote, vote.
Say that again.
Vote, vote, vote.
There you go. Louder, please. Vote, vote, vote. This is serious business. Thank you. Ms. Behringer. Mr. Singleton?
So a couple of meetings ago, we found out that when the doors shut, the camera rattled, so now the doors are open. So I'm just curious why the doors are open. Is it for airflow? Is it because we're worried about the camera rattling and we don't have a resolution? I'm just curious why the doors are open.
No, Mr. Singleton, so we increase the security of the council chambers by adding locking mechanisms to the interior doors. In doing that, the mechanism it creates sound. So we're in the process of trying to fix that issue. And so we unlock these doors with the meeting being public, and we lock them back afterwards. And so we just prop the door open to be least intrusive right now as we're working on a solution to fixing the mechanisms.
Okay.
So that was not just your imagination, it really was making a noise.
Well, it was making a noise, no doubt about that. We also heard it was sometime the camera would rattle a little bit when the doors slammed shut. So, okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Very good. Mr. Matthews?
I can't top that. I'm happy.
We thought the earth was shaking. It was just the locking mechanism. Good. If there's no other reports or no other business that we need to address tonight, we'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for watching.